Hi, welcome to the Week 9 lecture. This week I want to talk about values. Um, Kramer wrote a book on value-based leadership, and he identified four important values, and the first one was self-reflection. And what he meant by that is um, a leader has the ability to reflect on their own values and know what they stand for. The second one was balance, being able to see multiple points of view, or to see all sides of a situation. And by the way, that's what Ken Wilber described that as a definition of intelligence. Um, the third one was self-confidence, ability to recognize their own strengths and weaknesses and strive for improvement. And the last one was humility, ability to keep life in perspective and treat others with respect. And it seems to me humility is something that we've been talking about in class, especially, I think, what was it, week 5? Also, in terms of trust, Kramer said there's a widespread lack of confidence in leadership with the public, and this pertained to all sectors of leadership, and that's another topic that we've discussed in class. And he also called for a need for leaders to establish and maintain trust. And trust has been instrumental in all of our class discussions. Donna Zohar wrote a book. It's been a while back. It was 2004, but she made an important point. And she talked about different kinds of capital. And material capital, which refers to money and material advantages, what we normally think of associated with organizations. But then there's also social capital, which refers to the people, organizations, and communities, and that's been another theme in our discussions. And then last of all is what she called spiritual capital, which is shared meanings and values and ultimate purposes. And I think that's an important consideration as well. In Zohar's capital, there's a need for leaders to focus on all three types of capital. And in my opinion, the social and spiritual capital will produce material capital. And it seems to me that leaders today are obsessed with material capital and often at the expense of social and spiritual capital. Usually when there's an ethical violation, it's at the expense of social and spiritual capital. And there's servant leadership. Greenleaf first called it ethical leadership, so it was based on values. And it focuses on enhancing personal growth of people while improving the quality and caring of organizations. So in Greenleaf's definition, a servant leader focused on material, social, and spiritual capital. And it begins with the individual. It's a feeling a person has that they desire to serve others. A servant leader aspires to lead because they want to serve the interests of others, whereas that's social capital. And those being served by the servant leader, they grow as persons, they become wiser, more autonomous, and they're more likely themselves to want to become servant leaders. Some characteristics of servant leaders. Listening, once again, another characteristic we've discussed, as well as empathy. Healing is one I like, addressing the spiritual side of leadership. I can't count the number of organizations I've been into as a consultant and hear stories from people who are seeking healing because something happened to them within their history of working there that they've never been able to move past. And all they were looking for is someone to listen. Awareness, keeping in touch with ourselves and others. Persuasion, beginning with the end in mind. Conceptualization, seeing the big picture. Foresight, plotting the course, which is another one we've talked about the importance of. Stewardship, being accountable and sharing control. Commitment to the growth of people and building community. A servant leader has a desire to develop and grow themselves. They're able to focus inward on their own developmental needs and continuously improve and change. They are self-reflective in Kramer's definition, and they're authentic as well. In other words, there's congruence between their words, values, and behavior. Servant leaders are aware of their values, and their actions are in alignment with their values. I was always taught that a measure of a bad decision is when you do something that contradicts your values. I think most people would agree with that. I always like Greenleaf's measures of effectiveness because they go beyond material capital. I mean, obviously material capital is always going to be a criterion. But Greenleaf asks, do those being served by the leader, do they grow as persons? In other words, are they healthier, wiser, freer, and more autonomous? Are they more likely to become servant leaders themselves? And I really like this last one. What is the effect of the leader on the least privileged members of the group? Do they benefit from the leader's actions, and at the very least, are they not further deprived? I think that's an important concept. There's a lot of approaches, I think, that are based in values. And they include social and spiritual capital when they're done right. And it'd be Kramer's values-based leadership, servant leadership. What we discussed is authentic transformational leadership, authentic leadership, stewardship, and there's more. I'm not hitting them all. Yet, in spite of this, autocratic still seems to be a predominant approach today. I hear more complaints about that than any other leadership approach. And it seems that values make the difference. Regardless of the approach, the leader's values have to be in place. And we discussed that even in transformational, in week 5, when we talked about authentic transformational leadership versus pseudo-transformational leadership. And I think even the recent arrest of Carlos Ghosn of Nissan for financial misconduct is an example of perhaps pseudo-transformational leadership at best. When reflecting on our own leadership, we need to start with our values and identify what's truly important and keep that at the heart of what we do. In other words, we need to be mindful about values. I put a link in here for the Greenleaf Center, which is a really good source for information on servant leadership. Thank you.